What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we need to talk about Sundial stock. This stock just hit new lows today. It's not down there anymore, fortunately. It's recovered a bit with the market. We're actually up 1.5% on the day, but we just hit new lows earlier today of 53 cents, the lowest Sundial's been ever since the big pump up to $4.20 that we had all the way back at the beginning of the year. But we have a couple of huge catalysts for Sundial that we've just discovered over the past couple of days, as well as something that AOC is working on. And even if you don't like AOC, I know a lot of people who watch the channel may not like her. Some may love her, but some might not like her. Even if you don't like her, I think you'll like what she has to say about cannabis and legalization, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at the Sundial chart and see what's going on. So first of all, you can see that we did end up hitting lows of 53 cents just earlier today, and we then ended up moving back up, finally ending this downtrend, not necessarily ending it over the long term, but at least today we aren't red, which we have been for the past several days. And if you look, we have just been moving down. So by no means is this downtrend officially over, right? We could very well continue to move down over the next couple of days, especially with the markets. The markets have been very, very volatile over the past couple of days. You see a lot of action jumping back and forth over this past week or two. And it's not necessarily done, right? The markets definitely could fall more. In fact, if you look at the past year, this is the SPY, we've only fallen about 5% from the highs. So this market sell-off, if you look from the highs to the lows, has fallen about 5.2%. So we could definitely fall more. It's by no means over. People are still tax loss harvesting, and that will still likely continue to affect Sundial. I don't actually expect that we've hit the bottom. It's possible that we have, but we still have quite a bit of December left when people may be deciding to sell some stocks that are at a loss for them and collect the tax benefit from that. So Sundial is certainly a prime target for that. A lot of people may have gotten in on Sundial at these elevated prices. A ton of people have probably gotten in Sundial above $1. There was a lot of volume back here where people were buying in. And come the end of the year, some people are likely looking to take a loss on the taxes. For Sundial stock, obviously, that's a risk, because if you end up selling Sundial and then it pumps without you while you're waiting for that 30-day period where the wash sale rule is in effect, then you might miss out on the Sundial pump, which could happen earlier next year. It is my suspicion, actually, that a lot of people have been selling Sundial stock. A lot of retailers potentially have been getting scared out of it, and that institutions may end up scooping up a lot of those retail shares eventually once it's been pushed down low enough to try to get in before all of these huge catalysts come to fruition for Sundial and all the cannabis stocks, really. Whenever we get legalization, I think institutions realize that's going to be a big blow up for these stocks. So first of all, we'll take a look at the short interest, which has actually increased, right? This is part of institutions likely trying to push Sundial down a little bit further to scare out some retail before the end of the year, try to get retailers potentially to engage in tax loss harvesting and sell their shares of Sundial stock potentially to other institutions before the year end. And we have, you can see, about 309 million shares currently shorted. About 15% of the free float is short. And eventually, I think that those shorts are going to want to get out of Sundial stock. I think that they realize next year could be a big year for legalization for all cannabis stocks because of these catalysts we've got. First of all, in Missouri, there is a push to legalize marijuana, and we're going to talk about this. This is actually the best kind of push that you can get because it's not something that needs to go through the government necessarily, right? Voters could actually be the ones deciding whether Missouri becomes the latest state to legalize marijuana. A group known as Legal Missouri 2022 launched its initiative petition campaign on Thursday. And if the group collects enough signatures, which I believe is 170,000, then the issue would be put on the ballot and Missourians would be able to approve the legalization of marijuana for anyone who is 21 years or older, and they could purchase it not just for medical use, but for any reason, okay? And the campaign is being run by John Payne. He's the campaign manager for Legal Missouri 2022, and he was involved in the successful 2018 effort to legalize marijuana for medical use just a couple of years ago. So that vote passed with a close to 66% approval rating. So it would not be surprising at all if we get the necessary 170,000 signatures for this next vote to pass with a very high approval rating. I expect that this will probably pass in 2022. And that's just another step on the road to legalization. Now, obviously, Sundial could benefit from this in 2022 because their Sunstream IPO will be investing in U.S. cannabis companies. So Sundial will have some exposure to this, and they'll really have a lot of exposure once cannabis is legal at the federal level and they're finally allowed to start engaging in U.S. cannabis sales. So that's a good thing for Sundial, right? Just right off the bat, I think that we have a pretty good shot of getting Missouri legal in 2022. And another thing, this is what I was talking about with AOC. AOC is actually taking a stand on cannabis. She is partnering up with a GOP congressman, so a Republican, and AOC, who is a staunch Democrat, team up on marijuana bill to incentivize state-level expungements. So this is actually a pretty important part of the whole legalization process, right? Because a lot of people don't want to see people remaining in jail for nonviolent cannabis offenses if cannabis ends up being federally legalized. So as congressional lawmakers work to advance federal marijuana legalization, a bipartisan duo on Thursday filed a bill that would incentivize states and local governments to expunge cannabis records in their jurisdictions. So this is being proposed by Dave Joyce and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they're sponsoring the legislation titled the Harnessing Opportunities by Pursuing Expungements or HOPE Act. And this would encourage states to provide relief to people with non-violent marijuana convictions, which I think makes sense to a lot of people. You know, if you weren't doing anything violent and you're using a substance that's soon to be federally legalized, then you would probably want those people to be expunged, right? You wouldn't want them to remain in jail for doing something non-violent that's now legal. That wouldn't make too much sense to a lot of people, but this bill would help to cover the administrative costs of identifying and clearing eligible cases, and specifically the grants could be used by states to purchase technology used to facilitate expungements at scale, to automate the relief process, and to fund legal clinics to help people get their records cleared. Now, this is a very important part of marijuana legalization because the bill that we have currently for actually legalizing marijuana federally doesn't have a lot of the nitty-gritty details, like how they're going to fund these expungements and how they're going to help people who have their records expunged, how they're going to get them, or how they're going to help them get their records cleared. So there is some stuff that needs to be worked out, and I think that if this bill gets passed, then it's a good step in the right direction. It's certainly providing more support for cannabis legalization. I think that a lot of people in Congress, might try to use these kinds of things as an excuse to not legalize cannabis. They might say that the bill that's on the table currently doesn't have enough information in it about how these things are going to work, and we have a working system right now. Why bother changing things and risking things getting worse? But if there are already a bunch of bills in place like this one that could be used to help automate the relief process and that kind of stuff, then I think it would alleviate a lot of the fears around cannabis legalization if there was something already set in stone, another bill, especially one that's bipartisan, run by GOP congressmen and AOC. So I think that's, all in all, a pretty good thing that we've got going for us for Sundial regarding legalization in 2022. Once again, it's my suspicion that Sundial will not be getting pushed down for too much longer. I think potentially towards the end of the year, we could even see lower lows than what we've seen. It would not surprise me to see that. Obviously, the markets have been very bloody lately, and we are, at the lowest, we were only down about 5%. So really, we could go further. It would not be surprising at all to see that. Obviously, shorts are loving this. You see the shorts in Sundial. They are up pretty big on their investments, probably quite a bit. A lot of them were shorting at these higher prices, around $1. Even the people shorting at 90 cents or 80 cents or 70 cents are up huge. Obviously, at some point, they will have to cover and close out their positions, and Sundial stock will still be doing a buyback at some point over the course of the next year. So I think there are still a lot of catalysts for Sundial stock, even though they have been pushed down to an incredibly cheap valuation. I think that below 60 cents is really insanely cheap for Sundial stock. If you look at the market cap, it seems to add up that they have a smaller market cap than the cash they have on their balance sheet. I believe at this point it's around a $1.1 billion market cap, and as was reported at their earnings call, they have $1.2 billion worth of cash and cash equivalents on their balance sheet. So it's getting insanely cheap, in my opinion. And obviously, this isn't financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy Sundial stock. I'm just saying that, in my opinion, it's incredibly undervalued. I'll certainly be looking to buy more, especially later this month, if it does continue to get pushed down lower and lower. I think that it's going to be a huge blowout stock in 2022. I think it's going quite high, at least regarding where it is now. I think we're getting very high. Even without cannabis legalization, I think Sundial could be going very high in 2022. But obviously, that's just my opinion, and I'm not telling you what to do with your money or giving you any financial advice. But other than that, guys, that's what I've got for you on Sundial stock. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. But other than that, have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.